Computer Science A, Unit 2, Lesson 7, Wrapper Classes. That's a wrapper with a W. Understand why wrapper classes for primitive data types are useful. You'll also encounter code which makes use of the integer and double wrapper classes, and you'll understand auto-boxing and unboxing when Java applies them. Wrapper class wraps a primitive data type, like an int or a double, in a similarly named class. There's one built in for each primitive data type. We've got the class integer for ints, the class double for doubles, etc. These are found in the java.lang package, and so we don't need an import statement for them. They're already in anything that we use with Java. The following integer methods and constructors, including what they do and when they are used, are part of the Java quick reference. Integer int value. This constructs a new integer object that represents the specified int value. So integer my_num is set to new integer 5. Integer.min value. The minimum value represented by an integer, by an int or integer, is assigned into that variable. Max value, same idea. Int value. This is a method. This returns the value of this integer as an int. Because remember, integer is a class with a capital I. Int is a built-in. It's a primitive. Let's take a look. Here's also double. Same thing. Double, you've got a constructor. I believe in some video I started calling them creators. I don't know why. Constructor, and then double value returns the value that's in the double. Now, using the object classes above or in the previous slides instead of primitives are nice and necessary for some situations, such as working with array lists. But for most Java code, we'll be working with them as primitives and not objects. So let's take a look. Integer my_num is set to new integer 5. This is the same as int my_num is set to 5. Double dubs is set to new double 4.5. It's the same thing as double dubs 4.5. We prefer working with the primitive data types. Okay? This easier, clearer, less chance of issues. However, there are times where these guys are helpful. Auto-boxing is the automatic conversion that the Java compiler makes between primitive types and their corresponding object wrapper classes. This includes converting an int to an integer and a double to a double. The Java compiler applies auto-boxing when a primitive value is passed as a parameter to a method that expects an object of the corresponding wrapper class. The Java compiler applies auto-boxing when a primitive value is assigned to a variable of the corresponding wrapper class. So auto-boxing is applied here. Integer a is set to 10. Prints off one line since 10 is larger than -7. System.out.println a.compared to -7. This method is in the integer class, but not needed for the AP exam. Okay, this again prints off 1 since 10 is larger. Unboxing is the automatic conversion that Java compiler makes for the wrapper class to the primitive. This includes converting an integer to an int and a double to a double. The Java compiler applies unboxing when a wrapper class is passed as a parameter to a method that expects a value of the corresponding primitive type. So if you pass a double with a big D and it's expecting a double with a little d, automatic unboxing happens. Or you assign to a variable of the corresponding primitive type. So you have integer object is set to new integer 18. Int k is assigned the value of that's an obj or object. This unboxes the integer object and places the value 18 in k. Now think back to our dog class from lesson 1. integer age is set to new integer 7. This unboxes the integer object since the constructor is expecting a primitive. Dog puppers is set to new dog, Scooby, age. It's going to get age as 7, and it's an object. It's the integer object, but it's automatically going to unbox it into the primitive 7 because that's what the dog class is expecting, the constructor. And that's it for lesson 7. We will look more at these wrapper classes later in the year.